All right, what you see on the screen, I've got a hard copy of this for you too. It's in the office, but I'll grab it during the break. This is regarding the final project. All right, so this is part 1, as it says, requirements. Notice it's not due yet for about 3 weeks. So that should give you plenty of time to think about it. And you'll notice it's worth 250 points. The project is going to be worth somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,500 points. All right, because you're going to do it in stages. So create a 1 or 2 page. I would think that'd be enough. I don't want a paragraph or like a. I had people last year giving me a sentence. I had Chris Hardy last year did his thing on mixology. He did, on mixing drinks, and he basically said, "I'm going to do a thing on bartending." That was it. No, that's not sufficient. Okay, so I want you to explain in detail what you plan on doing for your final app. It's going to be a living document, meaning if you try doing it and it doesn't work, you can change it. But as of right now, what you're planning on doing. As it says, that's worth 150 points. If you don't know where to start, as it says there, you can go out to the Google Play Store and see what's out there. If you want to go and kind of mimic something that's out there, or dumb it down, and I didn't say dumb it down to criticize you, but if there's a game that's got 10 levels, you're probably not going to have enough time to do 10 levels. But if you want to try doing something like that, that's fine. All right, it says if that's not your thing, I did this last year, but I'm sure there's a similar one for 2021, but it's 20 plus best mobile app ideas to create in 2020, and there's the URL for it. So you can look through there. As it says, this part of the project is worth 150 points. All right, and then you'll wireframe it. So like I said, with 100, and I'm going to grade it fairly harshly. All right, so do a good job, take your time, spell check it, use something like Grammarly on it or something, because it should be good. This is the kind of thing that I'm hoping if we bring a person or two in here at the end of the semester, you'll be able to show them the requirements and where you went from there with a document. Then using Balsamiq Mockup 3 wireframe the project. All right, again, as it says, it'll be a living thing, so it might be very simplistic. Now, when you do this, the wireframe is different. There's a wireframe for Android. You've been doing wireframes so far. The stuff I've shown you has basically been for a website or a web page. All right, so at a minimum, as it says, it should have 3 screens, and a maximum, I would think you would not even want 10, but maybe. Provide a way to go from a screen to another in a seamless manner. Okay. I've got a series that I did on creating a mobile app. And it's, like I said, it's 5 parts. And my guess is most of the parts, I haven't looked at this in a while, so I don't know how long they are. All right, but you can look at that if you want to. Stuff that we'll be going over in the future that will end up being included in here are things like styles and themes. Intents we've already talked about. We're going to get into recycler views next week. We're going to get into databases hopefully before the break. All right, just so you've got some kind of an idea. So like I said, I will, during the break, when we have our first break, I will go, I've got that, it's on my desk someplace next door, so I will give that to you. All right. Yeah, I said to myself, so. Now I'm asking you this, were you both able to push that up to GitHub what you have? All right, okay, good. I'm not going to look right now, but I'll take your word for it that you did. All right, so let's see. There it is. Should be right here, guessing game extended. I think I copied over the right one, but I'm going to check right now. Again, the new machine is so much better than the old machine, but according to Mr. Corrigan, the part for the new machine to hook it up to this still hasn't come. So I do all my work on the new machine because it's much easier for me, and then I got to port it back down to the old machine, and that's why. I mean, and I'm not complaining. It's just it is what it is. All right. So this was rock paper scissors. Let's close that. And do an open project and look in here and find under the desktop. I think that's it. I think this is it, guessing game extended. Now again, this is how I did it, and I'm going to show you. Oh crud, I hate it when it does that. Hopefully I can fix this though, we'll see. There is some goofy thing between some of the settings on this machine and some of the settings on the other one, even though I uninstalled Android Studio on this older machine and reinstalled a new version, it still doesn't like something. So, let's see, project. Typically, not there. Typically, if I come in here and sometimes I got to do this several times, but I do a build clean and a build rebuild. You've seen that before. And then it usually gives me an error the first time it runs it, but then after I keep doing it a while, then it cleans itself up. That's at least my hope. It says plugin ready to update. Sometimes I've had to do that too, so update. It's funny, I have not had to do one update all semester on the other machine. So, but this one, this is like my 4th update on here, so I'm not sure why that is, but it is. So let's one more build clean. Build window here. And a build rebuild, and hopefully I don't get an error. Doesn't look like I am. That's always good. Good. Alright, so I'll make this bigger. And then let's take a look at the code. And then we'll take a look at the run, etc. So, source, main, Java, here. Okay. So here's my 3 activities. I'm going to give those to you, or just show them to you right now. And we will also look at in the in res, the drawable. These are the images I use. So there's the novice. I don't really like that one, but it says nautical novice. Here is the wow, which is okay, I guess. Here was the so what else do we have? Should be another one. There's average. There's average. And I had a start image too on the page. And it just looked like that, a simple guessing game. So just so you see those. All right, layout. Let me bring up these 3. And finally, under values, I don't know if I put any new colors in. I don't think so. No, so I don't need that. But I will bring up my strings file. All right. So one thing, and I'd like both of you to do this. Do you have a project up right now? If you don't, bring up an existing project. I don't care which one it is. But there's a real simple thing that I forgot to show you. Maybe you saw this already. Maybe you didn't. So I wanted to show you something on here. Okay, see this right here? You know what this is, right? This is called the blueprint, and this is the real thing. Well, guess what? If you go over to this first, which one is it? The one that's right here. Remember where I showed you where portrait and landscape is? Remember this right here on the screen? If you go to the one next to it, you can turn off the blueprint one and just have design. See that? You might want to do that. It's not that you have to do that, but to me that's much easier to work with than seeing that other thing. If you do want it back again, you can just click on that and then choose them both. That's all. But you probably will never want to do that again. All right. Let's start by, I'm going to run this. Hopefully it'll run with no problems. Give me any errors or anything, and then we'll talk about what was in here. It's a good start. I don't see any errors. Now, I did some things in here that I'm going to show you everything I did. And some of the stuff that I did, I went out and Googled, and it's deprecated. And I think you both know what deprecated means. But just in case you've forgotten, it means that you really shouldn't do new development using this. There's better ways of doing it. But it was the best way I found. Okay? So, when you look right here, here's mine. So you'll notice, I've got this. This is my... He just hit a wet spot. It's not the guy walking there, and he is holding like a computer and something else, and he hit a wet spot. Yeah. Okay, so there it is. Now what I want to show you is, notice that I'm just going to say 50. Now watch what happens. So I click calculate. Guess too high, start again. Now I'm waiting, and see how it clears itself. All right, so 25, calculate, and the same thing will happen. So it'll clear. I'm going to show you how to do that. 12, it's too low. Okay, let's try about 17, too high, so it's 12 to 17. So it's 13 to 16, 14, so it's 13. Should be at least. 13, boom. All right, I guessed it. There it is. There's my rank because you were told to do that too there. Now watch what happens when I click rank. Okay, it goes to there. Now it actually was correct, but I put a timer on there. So I didn't do it fast enough, and I wish I would have, but I didn't. So let me do it one more time here. Starting up a new game, so 50. And you can adjust these times. And I'll show you all that in just a minute. 75, 87, wow, it's a big number. 94, 98, well, it's got to be 99 or 100, I would think. There it is. Now, if I go to rank, there's my rank. But I set it up so it just disappears then. Come on. Well, it's supposed to. Yes, it's not, but it's supposed to just disappear after a couple seconds. And then here are the totals. I did the totals. Maybe I didn't even implement that, but that's fine. All right, I want to show you what I did. Okay, so if you had any problems in this, hopefully this will help you. Plus, I'll be able to show you timing and a few other things that are in here. All right. Okay, so let's take it from the top. The strings, these are what I had. You probably had at least something similar. Okay, again, you may have had more, you may have had less, but the bottom line is when you look at all three of my pages, I don't have any warnings or errors or on any of them. And I'm going to expect that from here on out, you're going to do the same. All right, maybe that's asking too much. I don't know, but I'm hoping it's not. All right, well, here we go. All right, so let's move this over. Okay. So there's my first screen, my second screen. I didn't do the last one, so that's on me. But this is the one, the rank. Okay, and I put a starter image in there, so by doing that, I didn't have to disable the rank button. So if you click it and you haven't got a rank yet, it's just going to show that. Does that make sense? All right. So there's a lot of different ways, as always, that you can handle the same thing. All right. And like I said, the other one wasn't done, and that was the main one. So let's take a look starting at the main activity here, so I can show you what I did. All right. So again, yours is probably at least somewhat similar, but you may have done some things differently, and that's totally fine. So I've got my constants that are in here, minimum guess, maximum guess. I set up min average and min novice, kind of the way that I did it for the BMI program. So when I'm making my checks, all right, again, you didn't have to do it that way. These I didn't put comments, but I thought it made sense. NNG, non-numeric guess, OOR, out of range guess. I guess it should have been OORG, but that's fine. Low for guess too low, high for guess too high, and okay for you guess the secret number, and I'll add more stuff to that. Here's what I called my widgets. I'm not going to read those. You can see them. Then down in the global variables, guess was the current guess. Number of guesses was just that. Random was the number of, the random number that was generated. The total number of wows, the total number of averages, the total number of novices. And I have something here that's going to either hold wow or AVG or novice. Any questions on any of that stuff? All right. So then set the references to the widgets. No big thing in there. All right. Then I called, now notice, I called clear and request, and I passed true in there. All right. Well, what the hell does that mean? Well, I wanted to call clear, but clear is one of my buttons. It's down here. Come on. And what clear needed a view, but I didn't have a view yet. So what I did was I changed clear so that clear also calls clear and request. See that? But notice in here it calls false, and in here it does a true. All right, so what the heck does that mean? Well, let's look. So clear and request says this. If it's true, and in here I just called it generate. So that Boolean, that's the true or the false. And if it's true, I want to generate a new random number. If it's not true, I don't want to generate a new random number. Does that make sense? So that's one way of kind of getting around that. Other than that, this should make sense. So the edit text was blanked out, the text view was blanked out, put the focus there, and I set this variable that I'm using for my rank to no rank. Now, you'll notice that when I do this, and this is what I got from this URL, so I'll be glad to send this to you. All right? But I create something called a handler, and then I tell it to delay running this for 4 seconds. All right? So wait 4 seconds, and then do the stuff that's in here. Conceptually, does that make sense to you? So if I wanted, if that, that maybe seemed a little slow to you, so I could set it to 2, for example. All right? But what this is saying is, when you click clear, rather than just clearing right away, wait a couple seconds and then clear. All right? Okay. And I use that in a couple places in here, so I'll show you them both in just a second. All right. So generate a random number. I think you were supposed to say what it was also. So that, oh, I'm sorry. That's testing, right? So when you run the program every time, it shows you. Okay? So in other words, and I can comment that out whenever I want, but it'll say like the generated random number was 87. So that way, if I don't want to, if I want to test a bunch of different stuff, like when I was testing this to make sure it worked, if it said 87, and I wanted to see if it was within 1 to 6, I would do it with all those. Then I would try the 6 to 10s. Then I would just keep putting in like 80, 80, 80, 80, 80, 80, 80, like 12 or 13 times to make sure all 3 of them worked. So you should make sure your entire wow rate, which I think was 1 to 5, you should make sure you test every one of those. Your entire average rate, which was 6 to 10, you test all of those. And then at least test a couple that should be in the novice range. Does that make sense? All right. And also, I wanted to make sure that when you're doing your guesses, make sure that it handles non-numeric input too. All right. So let's see. So the make guess, again, keep going equals validate guess. So what is that doing? Very similar to what we've looked at before. You're attempting to parse it into an integer. Okay, if it fails, it's going to throw a number format exception. If it's out of range here, I just did a toast with that message and I return false. It's amazing. Probably shouldn't be saying this to you because I am taping. And I'm not ripping on anybody. But there are people who took the test in the other class last week. And it was chapter 6 and 7. And chapter 7 was on exception handling. Remember, that's try-catch. Not only had we done a bunch of examples, I did for them and gave them a hard copy of a pretest where I did try-catches with the same kind of exceptions that they were going to have. But there were at least 1 or 2 people that instead of doing try-catch, they used if statements and their stuff didn't work. And it's one of those things where there's a part of me, all kidding aside, I want to go ram my head against the wall. And I'm like, what more do I have to do? They got 5 or 6 points on each of their, on 2 of their 3 problems for just setting tab order, setting the Windows start position, and setting the accept and or cancel buttons. Half the class didn't do that, and they lost those points. I told them last time, I showed them when we went over the test, I said on the next test, if you don't do that, you're going to lose all those points. I think they didn't believe me, so they lost points. There were 2 A's out of 7. There were 4 failures, and there was 1 person who got a really low C. All right. But again, this is going to handle the number format exception. If this doesn't work, so if I left it blank, it's going to go down here. If I entered in something that's out of range, it is going to be caught here rather. If I get down to here, A, I put in a number, and B, it was a number within range. Does that all make sense? All right. So, assuming I did all that, then I want to check for my correct guess. And again, you'll notice, I thought it was someplace else, but we'll see. Very similar to stuff we've done before. I know it's a valid guess, so I added 1 to my number of guesses. If it was less than the random number, I put in guess too low, try again, and I cleared. I waited a couple seconds and cleared. But I set false because I didn't want to generate a new random number. All right, if it was greater than that, I put in the too high message, try again, and again I said false because we didn't want to generate a random number. If it was valid, then I said okay, meaning you guessed the number in X number of guesses. I did this, and then I set the rank. What did set the rank do? It's checking the number of guesses. If the number of guesses were greater than or equal to 10, I set the rank to novice. Otherwise, if it was greater than or equal to 6, I set it equal to average. Otherwise, if it was greater than or equal to 1, I set it equal to wow. Otherwise, there was no rank. So if for some reason you clicked that rank button and there was the number of guesses was set to 0, it's going to show no rank. Does all that make sense? If it wasn't no rank, then give a toast on the bottom that showed what the rank was. Does all that make sense? All right. Let's make sure I didn't miss anything, and I don't think I have. So, in clear, we just went over that. So this is the show rank. This is where that intent is. All right, so it's all set up. You do the new intent. All you have to pass in is the rank. That's it. All right. The totals, I did set it up. I just didn't implement the page. I thought I did. I'm sorry, I didn't. So I passed in the 3 counters. All right, we should be able to literally, and I'll do it, but not right in front of you, but I'll implement that when I get done here. You know, it won't take very much time at all to do. All right. So, any questions on any of that stuff in the main program? All right. So then this was the total, so let's do the other one. So this is the rank. And again, I'm just showing you how I did it. I'm not saying it's how you did it, or it was the best way, or whatever. All right. I said when you come in here, the rank, I just made sure it was set to the default, which was that thing that said the guessing game. All right. Then you checked, and if you did have a rank, basically if it was a wow, you set it to the wow picture. If it was an average, you set it to the average picture. If it was a novice, you set it to a novice picture. And if for some reason, this is where if you clicked it and you hadn't set a rank yet, it's just going to show the default page. Does all that make sense? All right. So I could go back, then I could go back here to this one and grab from where we did like the BMI and drop that in, and that's what I'll do during the break after I go get your assignments pages. So I'll do that, and then just make the change. So change the variable names. Any questions on that one? Again, I will make sure, and I will do that right now because Chad said he didn't mind if I printed. So I'm going to show you in here where I did that handler right there. So I'm going to run off this routine for both of you. Okay? That's it there. And there. Whoops. And there. All right. The other thing is when you use that, and you'll be prompted for it if you don't put it in, but there is, I don't know if it was 1 or 2 imports. It was the handler right here. Android.os.handler. Okay? So I've given you all that. I mean, if yours works, then don't worry about putting this in. But if yours doesn't work, or if you want to be able to go in and put in a delay, this is the URL, and that's the code. Okay? So I'm going to print out 2 copies of that. And I'll print it out. My wife got me new masks, and they don't stretch at all. Okay, so there's no questions on that, right? All right. Now, Keegan, have you built the setup at least so far for the resume one, or not?
I've got the interface.
You got the interface.
Yeah.
So, and you've got the interface, you said too, right? You've got everything. Okay. So let me show you the code that you should be putting in. Now, mine doesn't work, and I'm not sure why. All right. I think the code is all correct, but I didn't implement something I should have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to stop this, save all, and do a close project, and then I'm going to bring up, I think it was called Resume GPS, but yep, I think that's the one. All right. Now I'm going to have to go through the same garbage that I went through before, so I'm going to have to do a build clean. And in just a minute of build rebuild, and again it'll tell me this, that I got to update it, update, that should fix it. Build. Oh. I'll tell you what, while that's waiting, let's just stop for just a second. I'm going to grab those 2, and I'm going to grab the hard copies of your assignments. So here is, if you want to know how to use that handler, and here is the assignment. And I just showed you, so this is, and it's great. And I brought 1 copy. Thought I had 2 copies. I'll get it for you right later, okay? All right. Okay, I used the same wonderful image that I had on the old one that I showed you because I couldn't find another one, and I didn't really want to take a picture of myself. So, you know, I've had people say this to me in the past. I literally had a student who said, you know, I don't want to do this assignment, and if I have to, I don't want to put my picture in there. Why? I don't like the way I look on pictures. Get over it. Okay? It's kind of what I told him. You know, he didn't like that, but I don't care. All right, so here's my titles and stuff. I don't think we have to go over any of that. That should hopefully make sense. This was the work history, so that would go in there. There's main. There's the education. All that makes sense? Okay. So let's look at the code that hopefully will make things happen. All right. So here's how I set mine up. Again, yours is probably similar. Headshot, the education button, the work history button, the call me button, and the email me button. Okay? And I know the one that you're both looking for the most are those 2 buttons. So we'll look at that in just a minute. Let me look in here, and I think everything worked as far as the call me and the email me, but I want to double check. So it'll take a second for that to come up. Oh, that ain't good. That was the same message, Keegan, I think you were getting about that EDB binary. I don't know what would be saying that, but installation did not succeed. Fantastic. All right. Well, somehow when I copied this over, it didn't show. It was working on the other machine, on the new machine. So let's just take a look at what the code is. All right. I don't think you need to see my education stuff. I don't think you'll have it because it'll be your stuff. I don't think you'll need to see my work history stuff because you've got your own work history stuff. So let's just take a look at the stuff that you need. Now, I implemented this using those on-click listeners, and I want to show you how you do that. All right. Could I have done it the other way? Feel free, if you want to keep just using that on-click that's in there, all right, you may want to do that. You may not want to, but there's tons of code out there that does it this way, and that's why I want to show this to you, okay? And the way that you do that, you keep it right inside of onCreate then, all right? So you use the name. Typically, it'll be a button. So I'm just going to replicate the one that's here. All right. So what you typically say is the name of the button. So like BTN education. All right. Then you say dot, and notice as I start typing, it's set on click listener. So there it is. So the easiest way is to hit tab, then type in new V and hit tab again. That's it. Now, if you do it that way, you don't need to put the on-click stuff in there because look what you're doing. You're overriding the on-click for that button.
I think you can't do that outside of
It didn't like it. It gave me some kind of a weird error when I did it outside of me.
Yeah, I tried doing that and it didn't work.
All right. But do you understand that you can do it either way? All right. Get rid of that. So there was my one for starting, showing my education, the one for showing my work history. I don't think you need either one of those. But let's look at this one. So don't even start typing. Just wait for a second. Let me explain the stuff that's here, okay? So first of all, this is not an explicit, this is an implicit intent that you have to use. All right? So you use URI. What's a URI? It's a Uniform Resource Indicator. A URL is a type of URI. The difference between a URL and a URI is a URI technically does not have to exist. You can just give it an imaginary address if you want to. So a URL is a subset of a URI, or a UII is a superset of a URL. Does that make sense? Okay, so you say URI, and then you give it whatever name you want. So like phone number, to me made sense, equals URI.parse, and then you say tel for the telephone number, and you put that in. It did not appear as though you needed to put a 1 in, for the first number, but it did like there being a space there. Then you create the intent. So notice how this is different. When you say intent dot like this, that's calling an implicit intent. So I'm telling it I want it to dial. Dial what? Dial that phone number. So what that should show, if you do this, I can't run it, as you saw for some reason, this isn't running, but we'll look at it in a bit. But what it does is it will show right in the emulator, it'll look like a telephone. And it'll have on there that number queued up. And it'll even put like the 314 will be in parentheses, and it'll have 286-3675, which is my work number. All right. That you'd probably want to set up then, so that would be your cell phone or whatever. If you were to give this to somebody to send this to them and they wanted to call you, so it actually would call that number. All right. And then, so you do this. This is setting up the number you want to call. This is telling it what you want to do. You want it to dial that phone number. And then just like we did previously, you tell it to start the activity. So I'll leave it. I'll put that up there in just a minute. But before, let's go over the other one too. All right. And then I'm going to give you the code. Because really, there's not much more I really had to say today. Okay. So this other one, so this is the OnClickListener for the email. Now, I want to mention a few things to you. First of all, none of this is mandatory. That's in blue. But, in fact, I should say this. Neither of these are mandatory. You set up the intent, and you say action send, because it's about to send an email. This you want to put in. Unless you're putting HTML in your email, if you're putting italicizing and bolding and whatever you want that to show, then you change it to, what is it? I think it's text/HTML, but I don't even know. You can check that out. That's not a big thing. Typically, you send emails in plain text anyway. Most people do. Then the next thing, as it says here, this is where it gets a little bit hinky. And what I mean is, you put in here extra email, then inside of a string here, and in curly braces, you put the email that you want this sent to, the email address. There's even things that you can find out, I believe, on like developer.android, etc. It works best if you use Gmail addresses. All right. I've had problems before trying to get this to work to my Rankin, but I just left my Rankin in there, so I'd remember to tell you that. Then this will actually set up a subject line. So it'll say resume received. Then you could put other things in here. So for instance, if you just wanted to send them a message that says this is to let you know that your resume has been received, so they could literally just turn around the email, you could uncomment that. Does that make sense to both of you? But this is the code that you'll want to put in there then. So I'll put this up there first, and I'll leave that up there for a couple minutes so you can put that in. That's the code that you want for the phone, and then once you get that done, I'll put in, I'll move it up so you can put in the one for the email. So go ahead and put that in. Change it to your phone number, of course, and if you have it in OnClick or whatever, it should still work. Now, the only way we can physically test the email and the call is to use a device. All right? So what I will do, we're going to take a break in a bit, but one of the things I'll do when we take a break, because I've got to get Angie a copy of the homework. I've already printed out those two things with a handler. So during the break, I want to look at my program and see if I can fix it. And the other thing is I want to go in there and grab each one of you a tablet. All right? Now, you're going to have to go read online because I do it every year, and it's just one of those things, I set it and forget it mode on how to actually hook up your computer to the tablet. It's in the handout that I gave you. It's on that PDF. Did you hear me? It's on the PDF. There's a section in there that's called connecting to a device or something like that, an actual device. So you'll want to do that. I'll shut up and let you type. Just do this, just wave when you got this one done. Okay? Again, I see no reason why it shouldn't work if you just did the regular OnClick. You'll need probably a view in there, but other than that, I think it'll work okay. You're done? Okay. Sorry, we're not in any hurry, because this is all, like I said, the rest of the period is going to be lab today. You okay? Okay. Now, I'm going to make this a little smaller so you can see it. There. And again, you don't need this, but you might want to put that in as a comment just so you can see it. Hopefully you change this up here for your phone number. Okay? And down here, change this. If you don't have a Gmail address, you should get one anyway. Otherwise, you should be able to at least try to use your Rankin one for now. But like I said, I would put this in just so you remember that that is in there. Okay? And Keegan, you'd asked why, you said how you tried using this and you didn't put it in the OnCreate and it didn't work. I've been looking for a good resource online, why you should use this as opposed to doing it the other way, the advantages, etc. I found some, I've looked at some. By and large, they're not good. All right? And I'll say this to you, and I think I said this to you, Angie, when it was just you and me here one day, that I don't want to sound at all racist, but that said, sometimes when English is not their first language, it's very hard to sit there unless they talk really slow, and some of the ones too, I hate it when people do this. If you're going to take the time to make a YouTube video, I don't care if it's 5 minutes long, explain to me what you're doing step by step. Don't use music. God, I hate that when people use music in those. I'll tell you what, while you two are doing that, I am going to take this and I'm going to pause. So during the break, I'm going to try to fix this. A and B, I'm going to go, Angie, I'll grab you a copy of the assignment. But the rest of the period after you get this done will be lab. All right? Now, what you should be able to do, once you put this in, what you should be able to do is run the program. And what should happen when you click the call me button is your emulator should change to make it look like a phone, basically. All right? I'm still not sure why mine isn't working. That worked. That worked. Oh, the rebuild worked. Try it one more time. Damn it. Failure is my hip. Files over their working directory is set to target. That should not be. Oh my gosh. Failed to delete some children. Jeez. Clean. Build. Rebuild. Let me try to see if I can run it again or if I still get an error. So. That's better. Now, if you look on the screen here, my education, mine weren't working. I don't know why, but I'll look at it during the break. But if you look on the screen, and if I click call me, see how that changes? All right. Now, again, to my knowledge, if I click right here, you can listen, and you'd hear my phone ringing over there, but I don't think it will. I don't think you can call from an emulator and have it actually make a phone call. Think about it. If you could, somebody'd figure out how to make long distance calls then. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that's something that, that is going to work. All right. And it actually gave almost a hang up sound. Now, this will not do anything in here. But if you hook up the device, I think what it does is it'll ask you about like setting up Gmail or something like that. But like I said, for right now, my education doesn't work and my work, oh, there's my work history is working. Okay. It didn't work the other day, so that's working. All right. And it's pretty ugly, but you see I have something in there. Well, let's see if the other one works now. Education work? No. So I'll have to look. I might have just put a wrong path or something else in there. Okay? Now, I'm asking you both this question, and it's being taped, so I can always hold it against you. Do you both feel confident enough in the way you've done these two problems that we could have a test on this tomorrow? There's not going to be anything like this. It's going to be more similar to like the guessing game thing. Would you feel okay about taking your test tomorrow? Because if we do that, remember there's no class next Monday. So Friday, we would go nice and slow, and we'd go over Chapter 4, because there's tons of material in Chapter 4. And in Chapter 4, just so you know, we're going to break it up into 4 sections, like the chapter is broken up. One of the things that we're going to talk about are some controls. We're going to go back and we're going to redo that calculator with a spinner. So we're going to have the drop-down list. We'll do that as class. All right? But I talked to Mr. Corrigan. He kind of liked the idea. And what I'd like to do, is to, when we get to where we're talking about, when we get to where we're talking about recycler views, I'd like us to basically build one of these. A contacts list, but what I'm hoping is you guys can, I don't know if we'll be able to do it to every instructor here. I'd like you to use your phone and take a picture of everybody. And the reason I like you to use your phone instead of having them send you a picture is if you use your phone, they should all be the same size. Does that make sense? And then what I'd like to do, there might be 50 pictures you have to take. And if we can't, then we'll just do a handful. Okay, that's fine. But then we'll set it up so if you click on the person's picture and their name will be, if you click there, then you'll get a little information about where they work, when they started, and maybe a quote from them. See what I'm saying? That's what we do with the recycler view. And you'll be able to spin your way through this. Does all that make sense? All right. And then you'll know, I'm already setting up your next assignment too. And it'll be to do something brand new. It won't be guessing game, it won't be BMI or anything like that. Okay? So I didn't see any smiles, but I didn't see anybody go, oh my God, no, I can't do that. Do you feel like you'd be, if I said to you, let's just say right now, I'm not, it wouldn't make any sense, but do the guessing game. Would you be able to do that in a class period?
No, I didn't. Honestly, I worked more on the resume one than I did the guessing game, just because.
Okay.
That was
All right, then we'll do it this way. Then we'll make today and tomorrow we'll make them both labs, and we'll do the test on Friday. Then we will start on Chapter 4 next week. Remember, there's no class next Monday. It is President's Day, so you're off. Good news, of course, is you get a great parking spot. The bad news is, if they find out that you're in here without any security people in here, they get mad at you, and then they find your instructor, and then they get mad at him or her. All right. I don't know, I'm asking you this then. Would it